I thought I could tell you about a time that I actually once got to deck a client and it all ended up in court. Spoiler warning, not me prosecuted, glad to say. But it gives me an opportunity to talk about some of the sort of more obscure elements of the legal system. So our story begins when I was sent along by a solicitor who wanted to come off the record. So they had signed up a client on legal aid. This was a criminal matter. And he was being completely uncooperative. I mean, basically, he was one of these sort of people with a personality disorder, hated everybody, the world, and everybody in it. And it was just zero cooperation. So it's actually quite hard to come off record as a lawyer. It's it's very hard to sack a client because even if they don't pay you on a private matter, you're not allowed to leave them in the lurch. But that's maybe a story for another day. But this is a legal aid case, and it's even harder to come off record because it causes all the sorts of delays, and people use it as an excuse sometimes. Oh, I need new representation, just to delay trial. But anyway, this guy, zero cooperation. So I turn up at court, try to get some instructions. He just blanks me, etc., etc. So I go in, see the judge and say, look, I want to be taken off record. Well, the solicitors do. Reasons are complete lack of cooperation and stuff. I just can't get anywhere with him. I'll be expected to do this trial. He won't even give me instructions. Lovely judge goes, oh, Mr. Robertshaw, you're very experienced. I'm sure you'll be fine and you'll do the best for your client, etc., etc. So the answer is no. At which point, my chap finally wakes up. He's taking no interest in these proceedings whatsoever. And he actually gets out the dock. And this is quite impressive because this was a reasonably secure dock. But, typical PFI building, it didn't quite, the bulletproof glass didn't quite reach the top. And he just went over, he got over the top of it. And he goes for the judge. And he just, how dare you say no to me? I mean, I don't think he realised what was going on. He just heard no. Judge disappears out of the back door and locks it. Security just leg out of the court. Thanks, guys. And they lock me in there with him. Luckily, he's too busy trying to kick down the judge's door to sort of notice me discreetly just shuffling back. Anyway, security come back in, all mob-handed. They just dogpile him, and he's dragged off. I go outside the court. A little bit later, the usher just comes up and says, the judge, upon reconsideration of your application, has decided that you can come off the record. Because, at the time he was going, Mr. Robertshaw, control your client. It's like, I've just told you. He doesn't listen to me. That's the whole point. So anyway, that's the end of that matter, or so I thought. However, sometime later, I'm just coming down the back stairs at Wood Green Crown Court, when I come upon, there's two guys just kicking some lass on the floor. And it's like, being the sort of person I am. Now, I'd like to say that I went in all sort of chivalrous and like, unhand that woman, you foul caitiff, or something like that. But I'm a big fan of what are called military combatives, like Fairbairn Sights, Krav Maga, all that sort of thing. And it's the old thing that if you find yourself in a fair fight, something went wrong with your planning. So, if this is a movie, then we'll choreograph it with lots of wire work. But in reality, it was, perhaps a little bit more dirty fighting than this. So I do my thing, and the guys run off. But I recognise one of them. One of them is the guy, my former client of brief acquaintance. So this poor girl, we're dusting her off, sort of take her down and, first aid, etc., etc. Turns out she's a policewoman, and they must have recognised her because when I said who the guy was, she goes, "Oh right, yeah, that'll be him and his brother then," because they jumped her, so she hadn't realised, she didn't know anything about it, who'd done it. But she had arrested them in the past, and like I say, these are people who are not, big fans of the police or indeed anybody. She goes, "Oh, but you recognise him?" I said, "Well, I know him. I didn't know it was his brother, but I know him." She goes, "Oh, brilliant. You can ID him then." Now, here's the first legal point. We sometimes talk about cases being ID cases, but there's actually ID and recognition. And this was what we call a recognition case. So it's not a situation where there need to be ID parades or anything, because I was saying, it's not like, I don't know who this is, but I can recognise him again. I know who this person is. But I said I wouldn't be able to identify the brother because it was all, very, very fleeting. These things are over in seconds. It was like, as soon as I sort of pretty much intervened, they legged it. Not least because one of them might have had a slight injury. Also, I did actually stand on her while all this was going on. That's the top rescue I do. It's like, I'm sorry, everybody, I've just stood on you. But I'm sort of going, well, there we go. All's well that ends well, etc. But I later on, this goes, obviously they go to prosecute this guy. Now, the only evidence it's him is my recognition. They know there's no point doing ID parades because I said I wouldn't be able to recognise the other guy, and I think they've got the hint that I definitely wouldn't be able to recognise him. Whatever happened, I mean, genuinely, I couldn't have recognised him. But it goes to court, and I get a witness summons. Now they've not got me in for an interview or anything like this. I think they got the feeling that they knew I wasn't particularly interested in this. But you have to attend on a witness summons. They also, though, because they know I'm quite good on legal trivia, they sent me what they call conduct money, because this is a little thing that not a lot of people know. If you get a witness summons, one reason for not attending is they have not sent you your conduct money. And conduct money is enough money to get you to the trial. And what's interesting is they sent me just enough for a one-way ticket, a one-way tube ticket. And I sort of said, I rang them up and said, oh, go on then, I'll turn up. I said, I've noticed you've only paid the one way. They said, yeah, you can have the return fare if you turn up. So I duly attend at the court for the trial. And we're back at the court where this, I'd first met the guy and it all kicked off. So, I am, she gives her evidence about, whatever happened. I got jumped, etc. So I got these injuries. So I get called to ID him. And I'm trying to be all really nice because I don't want to sort of, drop him in it by saying, oh, well, I represented him on it. A thing, because this was before previous convictions and bad character were sort of routinely put in. So I'm trying to be all nice, and it's like, well, yes, I recognise Mr. So and so, and his barrister goes, where from? It's like, oh, well, we had a professional relationship once. I met him, on a job. But then he puts to me, he says, I suggest you are claiming to have represented this man. What, claiming? This is well, where's this going? And the judge was going, oh, you just answer the question. Because I've already done a few where there was a little bit of are you inviting the court to believe? And it's like, I'm not inviting them to believe anything, mate. That's your job. I have no interest whatsoever in the outcome of this case. This is great just being here. It's not my, none of this is my problem. So he sort of says, you're claiming to have represented this guy. I'm going, well, I did. But his instructions apparently were, it's all a conspiracy. The police hate me and they're trying to frame me. And, this never happened and they're all making it up. So we get to the situation of, you're saying you recognise how many cases have you done? And in my criminal career, I was literally in court every day, quite often 6 days a week. I can't remember how many trials I have done when we migrated from one practice management system to another, and I just checked, it was something horrendous. It was like literally 600 trials or something I'd done up to that date. So, and that's not including just like the thousands of hearings I would have attended. So it's like, well, you've got no reason to recognise this person. However, the prosecutor then stands up and says, actually, there is an issue here. So, we stop court and everything, so we need to discuss this between ourselves. Now, while all this is going on, I just sit down in the witness box. It's an interesting thing, that, because, you never take the stand in England and Wales. You go into the witness box, even though you do actually stand. Now they've changed that a little bit and they do let you sit. But so I sit down. I shouldn't have even been in there, but we all knew each other. So they just seem to just be ignoring me. And this story, my story of the big sort of scrap in the court, this is quite well known in that court, because a lot of actually the security people and the ushers had come in just to have a look to see if this guy would actually kick off. The judge, who'd been the judge on that occasion, was sitting in the next court. And they said, okay, here's what we're going to do. We are going to call the judge as a witness to say, because it's, where I'm saying, well, is there any reason why this particular client sticks out in your mind? So I can put in all the, well, yeah, I remember when he kicked off at the judge. And they were also going to call the judge to say, do you recall an occasion when Mr. Robertshaw represented this defendant? So they tell the defence this, so he needs to go take some instructions. Next thing I know, he just walks up from the cells and goes, I've been sacked. I went, oh, it's all right for you to get sacked. I have to get into a big punch-up to get sacked, but there, doesn't seem very fair. So anyway, so we all trotted off to the pub. Me and the now recently sacked defence counsel, because we had something in common. We were all people who'd ex-represented this chap. We did actually find out later on. Apparently, the guy said he was going to self-rep, but he refused to come up from the cells, and perhaps unsurprisingly, he was convicted. But there you go. I just thought you might find that one sort of interesting and possibly amusing. But yeah, that is something. If you are ever witness summons, insist on your conduct money. And I've remembered tonight, because the duck had a word with me beforehand. Thanks a lot, Love a Duck. If you like silly tales like this, please consider clicking the like button and also subscribe. And like I say, I got this one because I've noticed in the comments people seem to not be interested in all this actual legal stuff and just like all these sort of tales from the bar background. So let me know if there's anything else that you want to hear about.